Thank you. So I will present something about climate change and health in, sorry, also I have to skip. Climate change and health challenges in the Mediterranean countries, facts and effects, and I will try to present you some topics about the case in Tunisia. Just to start, I would like to remind you that that humans are linked to the climate by a relationship that is very strong, very complex, and also changing in time and also in space. This relationship is undeniable, and the effects of climate can be both, can be relaxing, but also it can be also concerning, for instance, by extreme heat or extreme cold. The impacts of either heat or cold are also changing. It can lead to stress, and then it can lead to health risks, health aggression, that we call morbidity, and it can lead even to death. And the effects depend on factors that can be either endogenous or exogenous. Of course, the humans are are always looking for comfortable conditions, neither very hot nor very cold, nor very humid, nor very dry. And always, at every time, we have exchanges, thermical exchanges of our body with ambient air through the skin, through respiration, etc. Also, I would like to remind in the beginning that climate change is essentially due to the additional greenhouse gases, not to confuse between the natural greenhouse and the additional greenhouse. So we are now facing a new threat due to this additional greenhouse. And the responsible is, of course, the industrial activities and the pollutant activities. And at the other level, the most developed countries, the industrial countries, are the most responsible of this additional greenhouse. The climate change can affect health either directly or indirectly. That is a very complex relation. Climate change can affect the environmental conditions, the social conditions, and there it can affect health system conditions directly or indirectly, or also through social and economic disruption that all leads to health impacts. I start by the facts about for the case of Tunisia. Tunisia is a country particularly vulnerable to climate change. It is especially very vulnerable due to the intensity of climate change. Tunisia, as you know, is a Mediterranean country. Sorry. Due to the intensity of climate change, due to the great sensitivity of natural and anthropogenic systems, and also to limited capacities of adaptation. I remind you that Tunisia belongs to the South countries, and the umbrella covers essentially the North countries that are more has more strength to face the climate change challenges. Tunisia is particularly vulnerable, as I said. It is a highly vulnerable area, especially in the coastline, because most of activities and population are concentrated in the coastline. The main water resources are also vulnerable. Also, the other activities, agriculture, tourism, etc., and all these relations leads to direct and indirect impacts on health, and it's particularly important, especially for in link and compare it to the low adaptive capacity of our country. Tunisia is facing an increase of temperature. For the rainfall, we have a decrease, and even if rainfall is not decreasing, we know that with increasing temperature, we will have surely a decrease of water balance. So we will have more scale, more need of water due to more evaporation and less precipitation. We expect that temperature will increase in the future decades between 0.5 and more than 3 degrees of temperature. This increase in temperature has been proven by daily temperature, and we have an evident increase of temperature in all the area of Tunisia, in all the stations of Tunisia. And also in other terms, we have more intense and persistent heat, and also we expect winters less cold and also shorter, as we will show. These are some examples of temperature that are increasing. In all Tunisia, we have the same share. We are also facing many new records of temperature at the same time for daily temperature, but also night temperature. So we have what we call tropical nights in Tunisia with temperatures that are more than 20 degrees per night as the maximum. How to identify hot or cold days under hot climate, Tunisian hot climate. In Tunisia, we established a methodology to identify especially the hot days. We have a first method that is a statistical methodology to describe hot days, very hot days, and very, very hot days. This is a statistical method that is based on the percentiles. And we have also another method that combines the maximum day temperature and the minimum day temperatures, and that permits to identify high heats, very high heats, and scorching heats. So this is a methodology that is published in some papers, and you can find the details. And if we apply this methodology, we can discover that in Tunisia, the heat season is not limited to the summer months, but it can extend, and we have many hot days, even out of summer. And these are the stations, the localities that are in the north or mountain areas, but there where we have more than 30 days per month, per year, of very high heat, are especially in the center, like Kirwan, and in the south, in Saharan South. In all the Tunisian areas, we have a tendency to increase of hot and very hot days, Tunis, Monastir, everywhere. And these hot days can be can appear in waves, and the tendency now that we have more intense and more frequency heat waves in all the areas. I'm sorry. I don't know where.
Professor Boubaker, can you then please wrap up within the next 5 minutes?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I will do so.
I apologize. I think the presentation went gray. Is that the case?
I don't know why.
So we are about to lose our IT support. So I'm the host now. That's why maybe the interruption. I'm really sorry about that. But the problem is that we cannot hear, we cannot see. Okay,
You
now
can
we
see
can
now?
see the presentation. Yes.
Okay,
If you
okay,
could
okay, nice.
please share again. Thank you.
Okay, so we have more and more intense and frequent heat waves. I will at the level of all Tunisia, we have this frequency is becoming more and more important when we go to the south, and we see there that the period, the hot season, is not limited to the summer season. At the same time, for the cold days, we have a tendency, this is the approach to identify the cold days, and the tendency is the decreasing of cold days, and this is shared between all the regions of Tunisia. There is a tendency to decreasing of cold days, but even if we have these hot and cold days, they are uncomfortable, sure, but at the year level, always the comfortable days are dominant, are the important characteristic of Tunisia as a Mediterranean country. So I mean that climate change do not lead us to forget that we are in a comfort area. Another approach is a bioclimatic approach that combines temperature, 3-hour temperature, and the humidity of air, and the wind speed. And we see, to sum up, we have a tendency to increasing hot ambiances and sorry, and the decreasing of cold ambiances. It means combining all these criteria. And if we combine all of this, we can find that cold ambiances, day and night, and hot ambiances are represent the lowest part, the lower part of the year. So the comfortable is still there, and we are especially at still in a comfortable area. So we can conclude that lengthening of the hot season, the heat wave is the way of summer also is another problem, and we are also regarding and we are facing shifting of the seasons towards that the hot season is being longer and the cold season is being shorter. The another challenge also is that the hot days are occurring, especially now outside the summer and the month in the spring and the autumn months also. So climate change is also targeting other topics of the environment and link with health, especially link with water scarcity. And Tunisia is a country that is very vulnerable in terms of water availability, and it is one of the poorest countries in the North Mediterranean, in the North Africa. I'm sorry. And at the same time, we are facing a decrease of rainfall in all the seasons. We expect that it will be more danger in the future, in the middle of the century, between 50% also. And rainfall seems to be decreasing in all the parts of Tunisia, and this contributes to increase the water vulnerability index. That is a synthesis of many indicators. So climate change has impacts on water resource, and by that impacts on health and human being and security. Water availability is important by either by drought, but also by floods. Sometimes that happens. So extreme events are a very important threat, many important risks in Tunisia, not only in link with water, but also in link with wind. And Tunisia, since 2004, is facing new phenomena that are the tornadoes that have never been observed in Tunisia, and it causes many cases of death and persons injured, and we have many cases there. For the final part, I will deal with the health vulnerability to climate change and impacts, especially linked with mortality and morbidity. The impacts linked with the regular risks, but also irregular risks, especially for extreme events. There I try to find the regime of mortality in Tunisia, and we can find the seasonal tendency. So the maximum of death is linked to the cold ambiances, but also to heat in summer in different areas of Tunisia. And we have the V-shaped curve that has both slopes. Some case studies, for example, in the winter 2002 and 2003, we have here two curves, temperature and death, and there is a relationship that is observed there. The excess of mortality is attributable to cold and higher to cold is higher than the excess mortality due to heat. And this is the same that we observed. There is a very important link between observed temperature and observed daily death population in Tunis and Gabes in the south. The same also we observed in different examples. Always there is a link between temperature and daily cases of death, morbid and deadly hits. So we have the famous examples of especially 2003, but also 1999. I will skip some examples. There is another challenge in Tunisia, also climate change and link with re-emerging diseases. Some colleagues today presented examples of LCZ, leishmaniasis. So that's why I will perhaps skip, but I would like to highlight that we share the same challenges in Tunisia, especially in the central Tunisia. They presented very well this challenge, but we are sure that is in link with the climate conditions, especially with the temperature levels and thresholds that offer the field of very good conditions to these diseases. About health adaptation to climate change, we cannot separate health adaptation of climate and social costs. We have different ways of adaptation. We have individual adaptation, to use funds, to use technical ways, and population, of course, in different regions of Tunisia use these ways to artificially face the heats. But unfortunately, there is social discrimination because not all the population have the power to get the equipment, the necessary equipment to face and to adapt individually. Of course, strong heat not only affects directly the health, but it affects also the electricity shortage sometimes. And when we have electricity shortage, we have water scarcity, and it can sometimes provoke social disruptions. And we have many examples of this the few last years. But there is also a state, an official strategy to adapt health to climate change. And this is the state strategy, and we have many strategies, many ways to adapt that are dealing with the World Health Organization and UNEP and the international organization. So this is an example of the strategy of cooperation with the World Health Organization. To conclude rapidly, I have been obliged to skip many information. Urgently, this for Tunisia is as a Mediterranean country to contribute to struggle against the source of climate change, to build capacity also at the same time for prevention and for adaptation. And this requires strategies for strengthening the skills and initiatives, and there is also a need for early warning system and also for a specific atlas for different countries and to cooperate with different Mediterranean countries. And thank you, and I apologize for skipping rapidly.